This is dralvin.com, the business of wisdom, where world leaders and thinkers do come to chat. Very fortunate to have the international best-selling author, Dr. Gregory Jantz. The name of the book is Hooked, The Pitfalls of Media, Technology, and Social Networking. Before we get started here, sir, I'd like for you to tell me something about the Center for Counseling and Health Resources. Tell me about this extraordinary worldwide outreach.
Oh, my. We are blessed to we work with folks who come in from all over the country, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and we do it from a whole person point of view, meaning that we integrate natural health care, and we believe that there is solutions to depression. And the World Health Organization says depression will be the number one, they call it a disease in the world by year 2020.
Wow. You know, a few moments before I was doing this interview, I was on my bike. I had one eye on your book, and I was going through my final notes.
Yes.
And then I was watching, unfortunately, the tragedy that happened to Philadelphia coach Andy Reid. We're not sure exactly what was the cause of his son's departure, but many speculate concerning drugs. So what are some of the things you're doing at your organization, not necessarily saying specifically about this case, but what are you doing to help people to get off that type of addiction?
Well, you know, addictions are the fastest growing area of our work. When I say that means that people, whether it is a gambling addiction, a chemical addiction, a sex addiction, and, you know, that can be the reason for a lot of depression and anxiety. We really believe you've got to get to the core issues of what is perpetuating this in your life. And so that's what we do. We believe, you know, not so much in just taking a pill to resolve things. We want to get to the total resolution.
And what are some of the kind of options you provide persons that make your facilities unique, or I guess best practices? So what are some of the best practices out of curiosity for...
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things is we're going to do a whole person evaluation. We're going to be interested in, obviously, the emotional aspects of your life, but we're going to also want to take a look even at body chemistry and brain chemistry. You know, we do nutrient testing. We want to see, all right, are there some deficiencies in the brain and the body? We'll test for things like food allergies. So we're going to be comprehensive and just trying to see how is the body responding physically. We even do a sleep, what we call a sleep study, where we're going to look at if you're depressed, what's happening in your sleep. So those are some of the areas that we want to be sure to cover.
Well, that's a good thing. Before we get into today's book on Hooked, I got one more question for you. As you know, a lot of the things that you provide, you use a biblical model or you use ancient practices for what you do. One of the things I've kind of noticed is that a lot of people who are in Christ, who become believers, it seems like a lot of them have not really addressed a lot of their wants, their needs, and they've kind of glossed over, you know, I'm in Christ and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Why don't you think it's important that believers need to begin to look at things, appetites, things that they're doing to make sure that they're living a truly satisfied life?
Well, that's exactly right. You know, our foundation, of course, is our Christian faith, and we believe that's why we have the hope. But, you know, if it's like a guy that we were working with not long ago, he was drinking 12 pots, I'm saying pots of coffee a day as an average. How do you possibly drink 12 pots of coffee a day? And nobody had ever asked what was he putting in his mouth. Obviously, he had severe anxiety and depression. But, you know, we've got to look at how are we treating our bodies? What are we putting in?
That is so true. Give me a basic overview of Hooked, the pitfalls of media, technology, and social networking.
Sure. Well, when we talk about hooked, you know, we've got to look at the technology in our lives. In other words, you know, how the technology is affecting our families. And I have two boys, and, you know, we're seeing, you know, kids don't use phones to make phone calls. Texting is the new way of communicating. And how do we regulate that in our homes? You know, what are our boundaries around technology? For adults, you know, there's, you know, what are we modeling for our kids as far as technology? People always underestimate the amount of time they spend online, by the way, or in technology.
So what are some of the things you recommend people do? So are they doing things with technology that they are avoiding with, you know, contact and intimacy with persons? What can families do to create a better bond of intimacy, human to human?
Well, one of the things is a virtual relationship is not a real relationship. And, if you would just have online relationships and, you go, oh, I got all these Facebook friends and 5,000 people follow me on Twitter. you know, we need to go, okay, look, you may have really 5 to 10 true friends. And this whole thing of friends, sometimes it's stroking an ego in order to, what's it doing for us? And the other thing is, the fastest age group for use of Facebook right now is about age 35, 45 female. And I think they're looking for the relationships. They're looking for the connection. And I just want to say that we need to have real relationships. A virtual relationship. Like I can be pretty perfect online. I can look great and be great online. So what we present is not always reality.
That is so true. At the beginning of the book, you start off with a very, very powerful section concerning the subject of hooked, as well as this expression, this is the air I breathe. What do you get in with that particular introduction?
Oh, well, technology is changing the face of our relationships. It's changing the way we relate to people and business. There's always the next app that comes along. And when I'm really, truly hooked on technology, I can cross a line where it becomes really an addiction. We see people who come to see us, and of course, when they come to see us, we check in everything that has a screen and put it in a safe. And probably half of the folks we see start to get anxiety symptoms, sweaty palms, all the symptoms of anxiousness, and they'll describe real disconnection anxiety because they're really addicted to their devices.
So is that some reason why you decided to, or that is the reason you decided to make a connection between, a lot of persons may not be aware of it, but back in our day, LSD and the iPhone?
For some, it ends up being, in a way, their drug of choice. And I know that may sound odd, but truly a person who is so tethered to their technology, there creates some real anxiety and at times some real depression.
That's unfortunate. Tell me about the myth of multitasking.
Well, I call it multitask. Here's the myth about multitasking. There's been some good studies done. People who are heavy multitaskers, when later asked about recall, can you remember this and this, and recall details, most people score quite low on recall and ability because they're really partially distracted. If I'm so multitasked, I'm really partially distracted, so I haven't given my full attention. And the only exception to this is women score a little bit better than men on the multitasking because they've got more brain pathways for it.
Oh, wow. Tell me something about chapter, I believe, number 5, just like real life. What do you mean by that?
Oh, just like real life. And one of the things that we're talking about is the altering. I can create my own virtual reality. And the reality is this. I can pretend to be whoever or whatever, and I can live almost a double life, a different life, and I can, in a very unhealthy way, I can attempt to get needs met online. And part of the danger sign is, if I'm at home in the evening, am I spending more time on a device or online, whatever it may be, than I am with my family or real relationships? What am I creating? Am I choosing to do virtual relationships because they seem safer? So what am I creating? Which is a great question to ask yourself.
That is so true. We're talking about Hooked, the pitfalls of media, technology, and social networking. I'd like for you to give me the final thought, make sure I have the takeaways, and then tell me how to be a part of your wonderful world.
Oh, sure. By the way, speaking of Hooked, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, and I came to the realization that because I'm a tech guy and gadgety guy, that, I've got to be careful myself about how controlling this is. And so I write this book from personal experience and about boundaries I've needed to put in my own life and in my family's life in order to be balanced and healthy. And so, for me, it's organic, which means it's always changing, and I've always got to be evolving with it. But I do want to say there is hope. And I've got a good online, if you're feeling like you're struggling with this, a good online depression survey that might be a good one to start with. Find that at aplaceofhope.com, aplaceofhope.com.
Well, thank you so very much for sharing this powerful research scholarship and your personal testimony. This will be featured at dralvin.com, the business of wisdom, where world leaders and thinkers like yourself do come to chat. Also, we are on Facebook at dralvin.com. And you continue, Dr. Gregory, to have a remarkable and amazing day, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me today. My pleasure.